Hello everyone. Welcome to our next hunting trip today. This time, we're hunting in an area located right on the border between farmland and dense forest, an area that has suffered severe damage from wild boars. According to reports from a local farm, in just 3 months, the damage caused by wild boars has exceeded $200, with dozens of hectares of corn, sweet potatoes, and sugarcane destroyed, barns broken into, and even several cases of livestock being attacked. There's no other choice. We, a specialized hunting team, were called in to deal with the situation. Will we succeed on this mission? The video that follows has the answer. We brought along large-caliber semi-automatic rifles, long-range scopes, suppressors, and GPS devices to mark the activity zones. With the terrain being open forest mixed with thick underbrush, the most suitable tactic was active tracking combined with strategic ambushes. Only 40 minutes into the forest, we heard rustling from a low bush. We immediately split into 2 directions to close in on the area. From the right, a male wild boar emerged, not very large, but with eyes full of alertness. Without hesitation, I fired a single shot. The bullet pierced through its neck. It dropped instantly. The gunshot stirred the forest into chaos. We quickly regained focus and prepared to take on the next targets. About 300 meters from a first shooting point, we discovered footprints mixed with a few freshly dug patches of earth. Something was moving parallel to us at very high speed. Through the scope, we spotted a dense herd of wild boars crossing the hillside. They seemed to have noticed us and appeared quite panicked. There was no time to think. I turned and fired 2 consecutive shots. One was hit and rolled down the slope. The rest were taken down by my teammates with shots from the opposite direction. All of them were fully grown boars, each weighing over 100 kilograms. It was truly an outstanding achievement. That shot caused panic in the surrounding herd. They stopped causing damage and began retreating, hiding. We immediately set up an ambush from multiple directions. No one spoke. All we could hear was the pounding of our hearts and our heavy breaths. Every step had to be calculated. You never know if the enemy is in front of you or right behind you. The tension was unbearable. From a distance, a wild boar appeared, huge, with eyes glowing red, like burning coal. I held my breath, took aim, and pulled the trigger.
Trucks.
forest quickly turned chaotic. Gunshots echoed through the trees, dogs barked furiously, and the screams of fallen hogs pierced the air. Some nearby boars managed to escape just in time, disappearing into the brush along the hillside, leaving us in tense silence. But we didn't give up. We split up and started tracking again. Eventually, in a shadowed spot beneath a tree line, a target emerged. A single, clean shot ended it instantly, in total silence. In the afternoon, we continued scouting the surrounding areas. As expected, the boars had fled to this location. The targets appeared, weapons ready. The entire team took their positions, each aiming at a different target. A volley of gunfire echoed through the forest, one shot, one kill. As the boar population slowly thinned, we thought the battle was over. But there were just too many. They were everywhere, and even after 24 hours of non-stop hunting, we couldn't take them all down. Exhausted, we gave it everything we had, trying to eliminate as many as possible. But one thing's for sure, we'll need a better plan, and we'll have to return tomorrow. Deep in the heart of the American South, the state of Oklahoma is under relentless attack, not by an army, but by a creature many once thought harmless, wild feral hogs. An estimated 1.5 million feral hogs roam Oklahoma's fields, forests, and farms. Each year, they cause over $60 million in damages, destroying crops, tearing up irrigation systems, wrecking infrastructure, and even endangering the safety of local residents. So today, we came prepared with helicopters and high-powered weaponry, ready for a high-speed chase against the beasts that have been terrorizing the countryside. As the sun rose, our chopper lifted off. Below us, in the thin woods and torn-up cornfields, a herd of hogs was already on the move, tearing through the land like a living storm. We moved in fast, but don't be fooled, these hogs are not easy to catch. Every shot needs to be pinpoint accurate. A single misfire, and they'll vanish into the brush in seconds. Amid the roar of the rotors, I kept firing, aiming at the massive hogs sprinting below us across the churned-up fields. With aerial vision, Charlotte was landing her shots with deadly precision, each hog dropping in a cloud of dirt and dust. The helicopter circled the field, its engine screaming through the open sky. These hogs usually hide in thick brush or tall grass, but from the sky, they have nowhere to hide. One clean shot, and they're down on the spot. Suddenly, a large group burst out from ahead. The first shot dropped one instantly. The rest scattered in all directions, a textbook hog reaction. But it was too late. Every escape route had already been locked in. One by one, they were taken down by precision fire from above. In this chase, our instinct was no match for aerial speed and firepower. As we moved on to the next group, I kept firing but missed. That's when I realized shooting from the air is a completely different game than hunting on the ground. It's exhilarating. After missing multiple targets, I began to adapt. Watching how my teammate handled his weapon, I mimicked his hand movements, adjusted my aim based on the herd's direction. I wasn't perfect, but I could feel myself improving. And I knew right then this kind of skill comes from rigorous training and experience. From above, we spotted movement in a thick patch of brush. We hovered, watching. The land here is dry and rugged. Maybe that's why the hogs in this region aren't particularly large. But don't be fooled. Even at just a few dozen kilos, they're more than capable of ripping through farmland and devastating crops. They adapt fast, and that's what makes them so dangerous. There are so many hogs here. The ones we've taken down today are just a small fraction of the whole. That's why our team remains determined not to let any get away. The herd scattered trying to flee, but it was no use. We stayed on them, hunting them down one by one. Our hunt stretched into the late afternoon. But as you can imagine, wild hogs continue to breed and hide, forcing helicopter hunting teams to fly missions every single week. This battle, no matter how thrilling, is far from over. Oklahoma, along with many other states, is still calling for more resources, tougher laws, and stronger community involvement to stop this invasive menace. Wild boars, the name might sound familiar, but the destruction they leave behind is anything but ordinary. Wherever they go, trees are flattened, water sources ruined, crops devastated, and hundreds of hectares torn apart like a war zone. Even smaller animals aren't spared. Some of the toughest farmers have had to surrender to their onslaught. Various methods have been deployed to combat this crisis, but in our experience, nothing works better than hunting. At the break of dawn, we arrived at the forest, bringing along a pack of elite hunting dogs. Our team spread out quietly, taking control of key vantage points. The dogs started sniffing out every corner. Tension hung in the air like a drawn bowstring. While the dogs scoured the area, I observed silently. After a long wait, we finally spotted signs of wild boar movement. We picked up the pace, chasing through rows of trees. The moment a target entered our sights, it was taken down with a clean, decisive shot. Some were quite far away, but I still took the shot, sending the herd fleeing in panic. After a long chase, I finally saw my chance. As shadows darted past my vision, I didn't give them a second to react. I pulled the trigger instantly. The reward was worth it. Several targets were taken down, though quite a few managed to escape, making the hunt even more intense. Without wasting time, we continued the pursuit. The dogs kept tracking relentlessly, leaving the boars with nowhere to hide, giving me even more opportunities to strike. After those successful hits, we expanded our search to nearby areas. New chances kept appearing. Massive wild boars started revealing themselves. Their sheer size would excite even the most seasoned hunters. Then came the thunder of gunfire, and just like that, they were down. We moved on to another area. Deep in the woods, I set up an ambush and waited patiently for a target. There it was. I raised my rifle and aimed. The moment the boar crossed my line of sight, a single, sharp shot rang out. With minimal effort, the boar dropped clean and easy. The next ambushes were just as effective. But things don't always go smoothly. A few cunning boars managed to escape into the thick bushes. I lost track of them for a while, but eventually I caught up. Just one shot. That's all I had. As the boar stepped into my scope, I squeezed the trigger. In a split second, it was down, right in the heart of the forest. We returned to the scene, driven by the memory of those ravaged fields. It reignited our determination. The team pushed forward, tracking, ambushing, and dropping more targets. Every gunshot meant one less threat to the land. One more victory for the farmers. Later, we headed to another hill known to be one of their favorite hiding spots. To our surprise, other hunters had already taken down boars in the same area. With teamwork and relentless drive, we wrapped up this challenge with truly impressive results. Feral hogs, an invasive species, now a living nightmare for thousands of farmers and landowners across the region. Fields of corn are destroyed overnight, native ecosystems are severely disrupted, and there have even been cases of attacks causing injuries to locals. What's even more alarming is their breeding rate. A single sounder can double in size within just a few months. In response, a campaign was launched. So how did we do it? Let's dive in. Early in the morning, we were already stationed on a high mountain ridge, known for its rich vegetation, an ideal hiding spot for wild hogs. After hours of scouting, we finally spotted our first target from atop a rocky ledge. And of course, I wasn't about to let escape. In a split second, I seized the opportunity and fired a precise shot, dropping it right on the spot. A clean start to the hunt, and a clear sign this was going to be a long day. By now, sunlight had spread across the hillside when we heard a strange noise rustling from the nearby brush. Wild hogs have incredibly sharp hearing, so the moment it noticed us, it charged. Thankfully, we were prepared for any scenario. As it closed in, just meters away, I lined up a perfect shot and fired. Bullseye. Down went a filthy, black-haired boar. To reach the next area, we had to cross a steep mountain. By midday, we were resting by a large boulder when a loud crash echoed from across the slope. A shadow darted by in a flash. This time, there was no chance for a standard ambush. We had to go in fast and finish faster. When the range dropped below 50 meters, our team opened fire in unison. The skirmish ended quickly, another hog down. A few others, however, managed to escape deeper into the woods. There was no time to hesitate. One teammate immediately fired as the herd emerged, dropping one and throwing the rest into chaos. With a clear line of sight, we sprang into action. The sound of gunfire echoed through the valley, and by the end, most of the herd lay scattered across the dirt. Afternoon slipped by quicker than expected. We quickly picked up the trail of those that got away. In under a minute, several targets were brought down.
Aferin Mehmet'e.
10 minutes later, I caught a glimpse of a familiar silhouette. Before they had a chance to react, the whole team opened fire. Another clean takedown. As the sun began to set, the day's mission drew to a close. A long, intense, nerve-wracking day, but one marked by huge success. Abenojar, a small town in the Castilla-La Mancha region of Spain. According to last year's report by the Spanish Agricultural Association, this area alone recorded over 1,200 incidents of wild boar damage. The estimated direct economic loss? Nearly 350,000 euros annually. Unable to stand by and watch my property get destroyed, I decided to team up with a few trusted friends from the village and organize a hunt to push back against this growing threat. At the break of dawn, we were all set. Rifles, GPS trackers, and a bit of dry food, just enough for a long day out. Our destination was the northern forest area, where recent signs of boars had been reported. Looking through the scope, we quickly spotted some strange disturbances, clear proof that a herd had recently passed through. About 30 minutes into the tracking, a large male, roughly 90 kilograms, was wandering along the hillside. I crept in, found a good angle, and aimed carefully. The shot landed perfectly. It barely had time to react before collapsing instantly. Our first catch of the day, a smooth start. We continued along the ridge while my friends split off in other directions. Suddenly, a boar burst out from a nearby bush, only 10 meters away. I instinctively raised my rifle and fired a clean takedown. Other targets quickly followed, and of course, we didn't let the chance slip by. Gunfire echoed through the hills, and after a few intense minutes, the number of boars taken down was hard to keep track of. The team's morale was soaring. By midday, the heat was starting to set in. We took a break in the shade when we heard something rustling to the left. A small boar around 40 kilograms was trying to dig under the protective fence. No hesitation, I raised my rifle and fired. It dropped instantly. Small as it was, this was the next generation. If not controlled, they'd become a long-term menace. At this point, the team regrouped on a wide ridge to plan our next move. Wild boars are cunning and aggressive, so we decided to split into smaller squads and ambush from multiple directions. There it was, a target in sight. I fired 2 shots, one dropped on the spot, the other tried to flee, but was quickly taken down. The rest of the team was just as active. Multiple targets were spotted, and everyone gave it their all to make this hunt count. Time was running short, so we decided to head back toward our original ambush point. Just then, down in the valley, a boar suddenly burst out, like it was fleeing from something. Instinct kicked in. I raised the rifle and fired based on pure reflex. Bullseye. Most likely the last straggler from a morning herd. On the way back, I paused for a moment to catch my breath before leaving the forest. Then, out of nowhere, a deep grunt sounded behind me. I turned. A massive male, even bigger than the earlier alpha, was just a few meters away. No time to think. I raised my rifle and fired. Had I hesitated even a second, I might have been the one under attack. We returned with the truck loaded full, many of them mature males. It wasn't a record-breaking haul, but for a region overwhelmed by wild boars, this was a crucial first step. The last day of the wild boar control campaign has come. We are determined to conquer the highest peaks, where the wild boars have been thriving and causing a lot of trouble. Their destruction not only affects the crops, but also threatens the lives of local people. Therefore, we decided to kill as many wild boars as possible, so that the people here no longer have to live in fear. How will the confrontation with this monster turn out? Will we be able to complete the mission? Let's follow this dramatic journey to find out the final result. Early in the morning, before the sun had time to rise, a few friends and I were ready for the wild boar hunting trip that we had been waiting for all week. This time the destination was on a hill about 10 minutes drive from the residential area, a perfect place for hunting. The road up the hill was quite bumpy, but it could not discourage us. Starting from the hillside, we gradually moved up. Suddenly, a distinctive sound echoed from afar. The pigs had shiny black fur, large and flexible bodies, and were dragging each other along the forest trail. I looked through the lens of the shotgun, observing every movement of the target. The opportunity came, I held my breath, and resolutely pulled the trigger. The shot rang out in the quiet space of the morning, and a large wild boar fell down immediately. That was the first pig on this trip. The battle officially began. I quickly chose for myself the most ideal ambush position. With the terrain being low bushes, it was not difficult for me to find a location of the wild boars. The moment it ran past, I would immediately aim and shoot. From an ambush point, I could observe the surroundings and take down several wild boars in succession. But today's battle has just begun. A few hours later, I changed to another position to wait for the prey. From above looking down the ravine, I could clearly see every movement of the wild boar herd. We could not miss the opportunity. Each person in the group immediately dispersed, each standing in a different position, ready to attack. A large male wild boar separated from the herd. This was my target. I fixed my eyes on the lens, carefully calibrated. A shot rang out, and the boar fell, but it was not an instantaneous defeat. It rushed forward at an unbelievable speed. The wild boar, wounded but still strong, rushed away, trying to escape while its wound was bleeding. I couldn't let it escape. I couldn't let this boar survive. A loud bang rang out, and the boar fell, no longer having the strength to continue. A perfect headshot, ending a dramatic chase. However, the battle was not over yet. The herd of wild boars was still there, with others lurking in the woods, just waiting for an opportunity to counterattack. Everything was going pretty smoothly until we discovered the tracks of a giant wild boar, weighing up to 300 kilograms. Following its trail, we realized that this was the largest, most mature boar we had ever seen. It was no ordinary boar, but a true beast in the world of wild boars. This boar was definitely the leader. I could feel the heat of the confrontation approaching. The atmosphere seemed more tense than ever. When we spotted the boar, it was standing there, looking at us with a wary gaze. It knew we were approaching, and immediately, the boar turned around and charged towards us. I was caught off guard, but as soon as it charged, I quickly aimed at a weak point on the boar's body. A series of shots rang out from our guns. Finally, after a series of accurate shots, the giant wild boar collapsed, ending the dramatic confrontation. After killing the beast, we continued to follow the tracks of the remaining wild boars in the herd. The footprints led us up another hill, where we spotted another wild boar wandering alone. Not missing the opportunity, I quickly engaged and took down the second boar of the trip. Not long after, we spotted another boar moving near the fence area. From my position on the hill, I adjusted my gun, aiming straight at the target. A shot hit the boar right in the chest, ending a tough day of hunting. As the sun began to set, we had killed a total of 4 wild boars, including a giant weighing up to 300 kilograms. Although we were tired, we were proud of having had a very successful hunting trip. Wild boars, a wild animal that not only causes huge economic losses, but also threatens the environment and ecosystem. They reproduce at a dizzying speed, destroy crops, devastate forests, and cause heavy losses to farmers. In particular, they also have the ability to adapt quickly to all living conditions, making their control a huge challenge. Therefore, a comprehensive plan has been drawn up to prevent the invasion of this animal. The plan was implemented not only based on weapons, but also on the sophistication in setting traps and tracking the movements of wild boars. Everything was ready, and the dramatic hunt began. That day, we arrived at the meeting point. This was a large area of land where wild boars often appeared. I began to check the surrounding area, looking for traces of wild boars. Large, deep pig footprints imprinted on the wet ground led me to an area near a dense bush. This was where they often visited. After identifying the familiar paths of the pigs, I decided to set traps at these strategic points. The traps were cleverly designed, effectively capturing wild boars without causing harm to them. To attract them, I used corn and wheat as bait. The scent of these baits is irresistible to the wild boars. To ensure that the surveillance goes smoothly, I also placed some infrared cameras near the traps so that I can observe the movements of the wild boars at night. Once the traps were set, I moved to the neighboring area, where I could easily observe any movements without being detected. The whole team sat waiting, concentrating, preparing for the next attack. Using the remaining bait, I spread them out on an open field, then climbed a nearby tree to hide and wait. In my hand was the Henry carbine, a gun that stood out thanks to its fast-firing mechanism, ease of use, and powerful damage. 1 hour passed. At this time, I discovered a mature wild boar weighing about 90 kilograms approaching. Little did it know that this would be its last meal. I did not hesitate, raised my gun, aimed accurately, and pulled the trigger. The shot rang out. The wild boar collapsed to the ground. The remaining ones panicked and ran away, running in different directions. The chase began. I signaled to the team members, each taking charge of an area, coordinating closely to ensure that no one was left behind, while I continued to track and shoot down the large wild boars. The smaller ones quickly rushed into the dense bushes, trying to escape. However, with the speed and accuracy of the team members, they could not escape. Each shot was carefully calculated. A large male wild boar, with shiny black fur and sharp tusks, was taken down after an extremely accurate shot. I felt nervous, but also proud when I saw the spoils I had collected. After completing the chase, we went back to check the trap we had set earlier. I was quite surprised by the number of wild boars stuck in the trap. They were all large, adult animals. We handled each one carefully, making sure not to harm them when removing them from the trap. These wild boars weighed between 80 and 120 kilograms, with long, sharp tusks and bulging muscles. They were valuable trophies, but they also caused terrible destruction to the surrounding environment. After several hours of intense fighting, together with the trap I had set the night before, we had brought down more than 40 wild boars. Quite an impressive result. However, this number was still nothing compared to the huge number of wild boars in the area. Wild boars reproduce very quickly, and if left unchecked, they will continue to destroy crops, causing great damage to farmers. We know that, although we have controlled it somewhat, without a long-term and sustainable plan, the invasion of wild boars will never end. Thank you for following this journey. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next videos. Although measures such as hunting are used in many countries to control wild boar populations, their effectiveness is limited due to the species' rapid reproduction. In Italy, for example, although hunters kill around 295,000 animals each year, the wild boar population is still increasing by 150% annually, an alarming figure. To improve the effectiveness of control, we not only rely on hunting, but also combine trapping with this method. This combination optimizes the killing ability, targeting even the most cunning individuals in the herd, thereby creating a stronger impact in limiting the wild boar population explosion. As usual, the traps are set in the evening, and we will return to check them the next morning. Everything was going according to plan, until the surveillance system reported an unusual situation. A wild boar had fallen into the trap, but instead of accepting its fate, it frantically tried to escape. The camera recorded it struggling, climbing out of the trap before disappearing into the night. Without hesitation, the team immediately armed themselves, quickly approached the trap area, ready to track and kill it before it had a chance to recover. Since it was late at night, we had to use the thermal scope to search for the target. As soon as we arrived, we scanned the area, and a familiar figure immediately appeared before our eyes. It seemed to have gotten tired and was replenishing its energy. We cautiously approached the target. The wild boar was still unaware that it had been targeted. Choosing a suitable shooting angle, raising the gun, aiming straight at the target, and pulling the trigger, the wild boar collapsed heavily to the ground. The escaped target had been taken down. However, the story did not end there. This area was right near the edge of the forest, where wild boars often came to forage. After walking around, the scene before my eyes left me stunned. Wild boars were scattered everywhere, more in number than expected. In the darkness, they were completely unaware of our presence. This was an opportunity not to be missed. Immediately getting into position, when everything was ready, we opened fire simultaneously. After a hail of bullets, half of the wild boars were taken down, while the rest had already fled. After a hail of bullets, half of the wild boars had been taken down, while the rest had already fled. However, with the thermal scope in hand, no matter which direction the boars ran, we could easily track them. Prioritizing those that had separated from a herd, they became easy targets to take down without causing further commotion. Some of them panicked and ran towards the edge of the forest, but before they could disappear from sight, the accurate shots quickly ended their escape. There was no chance of escape. While tracking, we discovered a large herd of boars, moving in a herd and fleeing. Grasping their direction of movement, the group immediately accelerated and advanced to intercept them. Holding the gun firmly, when the herd of pigs appeared, immediately we opened fire at the same time. The first bullet was aimed straight at the leader of the wild boar, the one leading the herd. Then 1, 2, 3. One by one, the wild boars fell. After the rain of bullets, the battlefield was quieter, but there was still one survivor. A wild boar was bewildered, its bloodshot eyes staring at us, full of confusion, but also mixed with defiance. Without hesitation, I raised my gun, resolutely pulled the trigger, a perfect headshot that killed the wild boar in an instant. The sky gradually brightened. We began to move towards the farm after a night of intense pursuit. However, before we could relax, we discovered an unusual sign. A few cunning wild boars had sneaked inside, weaving among the herd of cows, taking advantage of the darkness to forage. The group immediately deployed their formation and approached carefully. Only about 50 meters away from the target, but the herd of pigs was still completely off guard, absorbed in digging without realizing the approaching danger. The atmosphere was more tense than ever. At this moment, every shot had to be absolutely accurate. A small mistake could cause the herd of cows to panic, causing uncontrollable chaos. The result was beyond expectations. In just a few seconds, the intruders were completely eliminated. The remaining pigs fled the farm in panic.